Welcome to another episode of the award-winning Champions Mojo with Kelly Palace.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the Champions Mojo podcast, where we bring you interviews to perform better in the water or in life. I'm your host, Kelly Palace, and I'm here to champion you. Today, we have a special guest who will help us gain real confidence. Master swimmers and anyone who's ever had to wrangle that inner voice, this one's for you. Our guest, Simone Knego, is a best-selling author and two-time TEDx speaker who specializes in helping people build genuine, repeatable confidence when the pressure is on. She's climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, led global initiatives, and teaches a simple truth. Confidence is a skill you can train, just like endurance, grit, and mindset. Her insights are spot on for athletes who want to stay motivated, keep showing up, and reach their next breakthrough. Simone, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
It is great to have you because, when I have talked to so many Olympic athletes, like we've had 50 Olympic champion swimmers on the show and Olympic coaches. And when you ask Olympic champions, even those that go out and win the gold medal at the Olympics, they say that they lack confidence. Can you believe that?
I actually do believe it. I think so many people struggle. It doesn't matter what you've accomplished. You still have that voice in your head that likes to tell you that you can't do something or that you're not good enough.
So tell us about what having real confidence is and how we can use that.
So first of all, I love the word real, right? I know we use the word authentic a lot, but I find real to be more real. So that was kind of where I started. And it was really important for me to kind of identify the transformation I went through. So I was someone who really struggled with self-doubt, that constant voice inside my head. And it took a big moment for me to kind of realize what I was capable of. And that's where my R.E.A.L method was born. So basically, R.E.A.L stands for respect yourself, embrace your failures, ask yourself what you want, and live without limits. And I started with respect yourself because I think that's the foundation for everything we do, especially around confidence. I remember as a child being taught to respect my elders, my peers, but never once do I remember being taught that the most important person to respect is myself. And it's interesting, the more people I speak with, they say the same thing. I don't ever remember being taught that. It was constant, ooh, you need to respect your teacher, right? You need to respect Mrs. So-and-so, right? She's your teacher. But it's so important that we take a step back and say, okay, how are we respecting ourselves, right? So a lot of times we'll go into a situation and say, well, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to demand respect. Well, what's actually important is to actually demonstrate it to yourself. So when people see how you're willing to be treated, that's how you are going to be treated. So that first piece, I think, it really is the foundation for everything else, so that you can then move forward into all the other things that we struggle with, embracing our failures, asking yourself what we want, and the limits we place on ourselves. I mean, I'm happy to break it all down, but you tell me where you want me to go.
I think with an athlete, respecting ourselves will often mean self-care. So would self-care come under self-respect? My husband and I are obviously athletes. We had a big trip last week. Right now in the winter, we train really hard. And you can push yourself too hard and then you get a virus and then you're out for 2 weeks. And so I kept telling my husband, we get up early. We get up at 5 and we swim at 5:30 or 6. And he was also running like in the cold. And he just wasn't, to me, he wasn't respecting himself. So he got very sick about 2 weeks ago, and he's missed almost 2 weeks of practice. And I did not get sick, knock on wood, because I feel like that I did a little bit more self-care. So that, to me, is that an example of respecting ourselves? And what other one might you give that's not necessarily a swimming example?
Yeah, definitely self-care is huge, right? Because we always feel that we need to do everything for everybody else, but we need to take care of ourselves first. I mean, that is how it works, that if we take care of ourselves, we're able to do more things. So that's such a big part of respecting yourself. I would say another one is setting boundaries, right? That same piece of People love to dump work on other people or, even, let's talk about in the swimming world. There's lots of plans that have to be made for each event, and people usually have responsibilities associated with them. And there are people that will say, you know what, I can't get to this. Can you do it for me? And a lot of times we'll say, oh, yeah, absolutely. But sometimes when we're really busy, we have to be able to say no so that we can protect ourselves, so that we can do all the other things that we need to do.
Yeah, that's perfect. And just setting boundaries is like, I don't need to go double workouts, or I don't need to lift weights on the same day that I'm doing a really hard workout. So I think that's a beautiful one. Okay, so we covered the R. What's the E?
Embrace your failures. This is hard for everybody, right? Because I think, society has taught us that if you fail at something, you're a failure, but it doesn't work that way. Like if you fail at something, it's a moment in time. And so, and failure is part of success, right? You're not just successful out of the gate for anything, right? You have to practice, you have to put in the work. And we often think of like, let's talk about a baby, like when they first learn to walk, right? They fall all the time, but they keep on getting back up, right? That's how you learn. But we take things so personally, and we're so focused on what everybody else thinks. And oh my gosh, that was embarrassing. Like I'm supposed to be swimming at this level. I can't forgive myself for it, right? And that's not true at all, right? Everybody has bad days. And if we looked at it differently, if we looked at it like, okay, that was a bad day, or it's a learning process, then I think we would look at failure in a completely different light. Like it's a bump in the road. That's it. Like show all the emotions. If you're really upset about something, show all the emotions, but then move on. Pick a day and move on, because otherwise you're going to be stuck there forever and you're going to constantly question, ooh, am I good enough? I shouldn't be doing this. And so I think it's really flipping the script on what a failure means.
Yes. And we talk about this all the time on the show. I think every single really bad failure is an opportunity to learn. It's like, that is what most comes out of me. You either win or you learn something. And in your biggest failures, you really kind of learn the most. So I love that. I think that's really a huge part of confidence. Just say, okay, I might fail, but I'm definitely going to learn something. And that's what when I'm behind the blocks and I'm really nervous, that's what I kind of say to myself. Well, I'm either going to have a great swim or I'm going to learn something. So I love that.
And if you don't try, you'll never know, right? So a lot of people say, oh, no, I'm not going to do that because what if I fail? Okay, so what? What if you fail, right? I mean,
Yeah.
what's the worst thing that's going to happen? So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Bring us the A.
ask yourself what you want. This is probably the hardest one. And if we talk about women for a second here, this is really the hardest one for women. But across the board, I think it's really hard because we are conditioned to do so much for other people. And especially like in our lives, we're working, we're doing all the things, and we're a lot of times going from point A to point B with our head down. And so that idea of saying, wait, is this something that I really want, or am I doing it because someone else wants me to, right? There's certain things we have to do, right? When it comes to work, there's certain things we have to do. But in life in general, like I love that swimming is a part of your everyday life. For a lot of people, they don't have something outside of work or home, and they kind of lose themselves. And so it's really taking a look at your life and saying, think back to when you were a little kid, right? What did you want when you were a little kid? Because that kid still exists. That kid is still in there. Do things that make you happy. Do things that you really want to do. And for a lot of people, I don't mean quit your job tomorrow. What I mean is that there's things that you can do on the side that are as satisfying if you were doing it full time. So again, making sure that you take that time to do things that really interest you, instead of just going through and saying, this is all I get to do. I had someone say to me the other day, and this actually goes a little bit back to self-care, because I believe that you need at least 15 minutes a day. And he said to me, what about the people that say they absolutely have zero time to be able to do that? And my response was, ask them how much time they spend scrolling on their phone, because there is definitely 15 minutes that you can take for yourself. So there is definitely time in your life that you can do something that you really want.
Yes, that's such a great point. Yeah, we just spend a lot of time scrolling, and when you could do that. And I think another, how what takes the pressure off of me or maybe gives me more confidence, and I think other athletes might relate to this, is when you ask yourself what you want. So sometimes, especially in master swimming, we can do anything from just show up and be there for the social fun element to we have former Olympians that are swimming that all eyes are on them. And when they swim in a meet, it hits the big swimming news website. And so there's a lot of pressure to no pressure in master swimming, and it's really what you want. So I think asking yourself, do I really have to perform like I did when I was a college All American? Or do I have to perform? Do I have to win this race? Or can I just go and have fun? And I think if you ask yourself, am I doing this because I want to be a top 10 or I want to be an All American? Or do I just do master swimming because I can eat a little bit more? It makes me feel good. I get to be around my friends. If you really do ask yourself why you swim or why you work out or why you play pickleball or why you do anything that's just for you, if you do have that time, then maybe you don't have to be the best at it. So I think that's a really good one to add to your confidence.
And I want to add a little mindset hack that I use, which kind of is across the board. But, a lot of times when we have that voice in our head, I call it the what if whisperer. Like, oh my gosh, like, so if I decide now as a master swimmer, I only want to do like for social, right? That I'm not going to be competitive like I used to be, right? That there comes the voice, right? Oh, people are going to think, what's wrong with her? Like, what are they doing? Or what's wrong with him, right? And so my mindset hack is called Control Alt Delete. Very creative, but it back in the day, that's how we would reset a frozen computer. Now it brings up Task Manager, which I don't even know what that means, but that's what it does. But sometimes our minds freeze too, right? We spiral in self-doubt. We get stuck in that comparison game. We worry about what everybody else is thinking. So control is about awareness, right? It's understanding that the thoughts that are coming into your mind are just thoughts, like they're not reality. And understanding that, then you can do something different. So alt is about alternative. Tell yourself a better story. And instead of telling yourself that you can't do something, tell yourself that you can. Or instead of telling yourself that, oh, what if I fail? How about when I succeed? The last part is delete. Delete the habits and beliefs that don't serve you. Delete the comparison game. Delete the belief that you're not enough. Delete the apology. And that's how you move forward. So anytime I have those thoughts that come in, I catch them because they're still going to come in. It doesn't matter how confident you are. There are still going to be times where you have these thoughts and you catch them and you change them and you move forward.
Yeah, that's really great. Any little hack like that is cool. So Control Alt Delete is very good. So the L, we are on the L.
Live without limits. So we limit ourselves from the minute we wake up until the second we go to bed, right? We tell ourselves that we're not good enough. We're not capable. We're not pretty enough. We're not skinny enough. We're not fit enough, whatever it is. When I was younger, there was a period of time where I was a stay-at-home mom. And the way I would describe myself was, I'm just a stay-at-home mom, or I'm just Rob's wife. I'm just a volunteer, really justifying my existence. So my response to that is drop the just, because we're not just anyone or anything, right? We're all unique. We're all different. And to try to talk about ourselves with limits, which is what we do, start catching yourself and saying, no, I don't need to say this about myself. Like, I need to be proud of exactly who I am. And it's not a light switch. It's something that we work on all the time. It's funny. A lot of people think, oh, that person's so confident and I'm just not. Confidence is a skill, like just like swimming, right? You have to work at it to be really good. Like the best swimmers in the world don't go once a month and say, oh, yeah, okay, that's why I did bad, right? So it's the same thing with confidence. You work on it every day, whether you use positive affirmations, evening gratitudes, things that really help you build yourself up. And you see it a ton in professional sports, sports across the board, where you see athletes who are talking to themselves, telling themselves what they're capable of, because your thoughts become your reality. And what you say to yourself is what you believe.
Yes, that's so true. It really is a muscle. Confidence is a muscle. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. still get you to your destination. You can really build it until it gets to become a strength for you. So, uh, tell us about climbing Mount
Ah,
Kilimanjaro. I know it's a big mountain, but that's about all I know.
So it's the tallest freestanding mountain in the world, but it is also the highest peak in Africa. It's 19,341 feet. And I never climbed anything before. I live in Florida. I have, 16 steps in my house. There's one hill in Florida that used to be a trash dump. So training was very interesting. But I was someone who really struggled with self-doubt the majority of my life, and really needed something to get out of my comfort zone, right? I have 6 kids. I have done many things in my life, but I just didn't feel like I had found my purpose. And not that my kids are not my purpose. I mean, that's a big part of my purpose. But so I was asked to do it. A friend of ours had climbed it the previous year. He asked my husband, and my husband in 3 seconds or less said, "No, thank you, call Simone." And so he did. And I said yes. And I said yes because I knew I needed to get out of my comfort zone. And then I looked at what I was doing and I was like, oh my gosh, this is huge. And I trained for 6 months. I wore this elevation training mask. So it had the face of a gorilla on it. So I would wear it in boxing class and everything like that. You can change out the little valves and it would kind of mimic the amount of air you could pull into your lungs. So has nothing to do with oxygen, but it has to do with building lung capacity. And it's like breathing through a straw basically by the end. So, but I got in the best shape of my life and I went, there were 16 of us, all strangers. And it was really interesting. It was leadership at elevation, right? How you work with other people that you don't know. It's one thing in a boardroom, but a different thing when you're on a mountain. And majority of us, it was the first mountain we had ever climbed. And so it was a really interesting experience. For me, it was life-changing. When I reached the summit, I really realized, like, the whole point was for me to realize what I was capable of and that I didn't need to worry about what anybody else was thinking or what anybody else was saying, right? It was about me focusing on myself, believing in myself, telling myself what I was capable of, and then doing the work.
So, I have a few questions. So,
Yeah.
the gorilla mask, how long did you have to wear that for? And was it like what other kind of training besides just wearing that mask?
Oh,
I mean, we lived in Florida for 20 years and there is not a hill there. So how
yeah.
did you train?
So we had a treadmill that I would put by the end at, full elevation. I would do the steps in the parking garage at the hospital. I would carry my pack and boots and wear my mask anytime I walked outside. I did boxing classes wearing it. Anything that I could do, I was doing. And so lifting weights, all of the things, making sure my legs were strong. And yeah, so I could have trained for longer, but I didn't have the time. By the time I signed up, I had 6 months to get it all done. And so that was really my focus for those 6 months. And, even more so than the physical aspect was the mental aspect, right? Like what am I getting myself into? You're going to the bathroom outside, you're sleeping, it's freezing. And every time you have to get up to go to the bathroom, you got to get out of the tent and get outside again. So a lot of it was the mental preparation of, yes, you can do this, right? If you want something bad enough, you can do it. And that was, it was, again, life-changing.
It sounds amazing. So, back to the mask because this is just
Yes.
really, really
Yes.
interesting. And then I have I have questions about the actual climb. So is this like a tube that's in your mouth that
Mm-mm.
you
No, it's actually, so it literally looks like, we don't have video, but it looks like like any kind of mask, like a winter mask or something like that. And there are valves on the side and you can adjust the valve. So basically when you first start, you might put it at like 500 feet or 1,000 feet. And so every time you adjust it to a higher level, like I think that mask went up to like 15,000 feet. So it mimicked like when you would take a breath, how little air. So you don't start at the top, you build yourself up like anything else. And so it literally looked like I had a gorilla on my face, a gorilla face on my face. And it
okay.
just like Velcroed around the back of my head. And yeah, valves on each side, like near my cheeks. And then, when you would breathe, it would pull the air in through there. So, less capacity and
So
to
it's
build bigger lungs.
restricting. Yeah,
Yes.
it's restricting your breathing.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Restricting your breathing. And by the end of using it, I could actually hold my breath for 2 minutes, which I was never able to do that before. And I can probably tell you now, I can probably hold my breath for 30 seconds at best. So it really worked.
Yeah. So yeah, swimmers, we love to hear about breathing and breath control.
Yes.
And yeah, we do a lot of crazy. So that's the breathing thing is very interesting. So how long was the actual climb? Was it 3 nights, 4 nights, a week? How long does it take to go up there?
Yeah, it was the route that we took was 5 days up, 2 days down. There's a shorter route that I think it's called the Coca-Cola route that's like 3 days up, but it's, you want to be able to acclimate, right? Because you don't take oxygen. You run out in 2 seconds. It's just too long of a climb to do it. And, so you're sleeping in a tent. The best part for me was that we had tent mates. So I had a roommate I didn't know that I was going to have, and she turned out to be fantastic. She's very athletic. She does all kinds of triathlons now, but she was a breast cancer survivor. So it was really fun to have that experience with her. And yeah, 5 days up, 2 days down.
Was there any doubt when you were climbing it and any pain? And like, was it hard to get through? Was it you got up there and like, oh my gosh, this is way worse than I thought it would be, or easier, or like what were the hardships of it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of doubt because I'd never done anything like that before, right? And I am not a climber. And that was my first pair of hiking boots I ever owned was for that trip. So, yes, there was doubt. I mean, that voice inside my head was very loud. And I just told myself one more step, just one more step. And that's kind of how I moved forward. I have had a couple of knee surgeries. So I used to do triathlons and I hurt my knee running, had surgery, and then had a huge complication from the surgery. And I've had, uh, chronic issues with my patellar tendon since then. So I knew it was going to be hard. And the up was fine. It was the down. So the down was like the hardest part for me by the end. My knee was like one big balloon. And at the end, we had like one more day. And the guy's like, "Are you sure you don't want us to get you a vehicle?" I was like, "Oh no, I've come this far. I am going to make it." And it was interesting because one of the guides stayed back with me as we were walking back down. And he said, "You know what? I'm seeing things differently. Like I typically we're rushing to the end to get there." And he's like, "I never even noticed before, like, because you go back through like the rainforest." And he said, I can tell you, I've done this 7 times. I've never seen the monkeys in the trees before because we were just rushing to get to the end. So thank you for having a knee injury and going slow.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. That is beautiful. So, what would you say that your biggest obstacle in life, maybe it was climbing that mountain or your knee, injuries. What have you overcome in life?
So, when I looked back and really thought about why I struggled so much, I feel like, we all have some kind of situation that happens in our life that brings on that self-doubt, right? Whether it's a teacher tells us we're not, good enough at something or whatever it is. For me, I actually had an abusive boyfriend in high school, and that was probably the hardest thing. And what I did for years was I stuffed it down, right? I was with him for 3 years and then finally realized that I was not going to survive if I stayed. Got out of that situation and I moved forward. But the problem was I didn't address it before I moved forward. So it was always in my head that, oh, you're not pretty enough. You're not skinny enough. Oh my gosh, you have stretch marks. Whatever the horrible things he used to say to me, that stuck with me for a really long time. And so really that Kilimanjaro climb really kind of made me realize why am I still doing this? Like, why am I focused on what he said? And so that was really the biggest thing I've overcome.
Yeah, that's awful. I'm so sorry that you went through that. And sometimes we don't even realize when we're in an abusive relationship like that. And it really takes its toll. If someone is in that space where they're in an abusive relationship, if someone backhands you, gives you a bruise on your face. But if it's something emotional and mental, sometimes you don't even recognize it. What advice you would give to somebody if they just are in the toxic relationship that they feel This is not making me feel good.
So for me, it was both emotional and actual physical abuse. But yeah, there's no reason we ever need to stay in a situation like that. And I know it's easier said than done to walk away, but that's exactly what I don't want to say sometimes. That's exactly what you have to do. Like, you deserve respect. And again, for me, like, that goes back to that self-respect piece. I'm not going to talk to someone in a negative way. Would I allow them to talk to me like that? Right. And it's really kind of looking at our boundaries and saying, wait, this is not okay. This is not okay. Like, this makes me feel like crap about myself. It's time to move on. Again, easier said than done, because a lot of times there's financial things related to it. And then there's also when the other person won't let go and they come after you. Like, for me, he stalked me. Right. So it was more difficult than a lot of times we think, oh, why doesn't she just walk away? There's a lot of factors for it. But for our health, like, we should always be able to walk away.
Yes, that circles back so nicely to what we started with, which was the real confidence. And I want to put this out there because what you said just reminded me of it. Sometimes I say things to myself that I would never in a million years, and I never have said to anyone else. Oh boy, that was really stupid, or you did it awful at that. You'll never get that. I would never say half of the stuff that I say to myself to anyone. Is that the real crux of the respect yourself?
Yeah, talk to yourself like you would your best friend. You would not treat your best friend the way you treat yourself, And a lot of times we don't even realize we're doing it, right? So I had a moment when I have a podcast with my 22-year-old daughter, and when she was 15, she came into my bathroom. I was getting ready for an event. I had gained some weight. I was berating myself, right? I can't believe you gained weight again. This is ridiculous. Why are you even going to go to this event? Like, nobody's going to want to be with you. And she was like, okay, first of all, Mom, you're beautiful. Second of all, you have to stop. You're giving me a complex. How do you expect me to love my body when you don't even like your own? So I didn't know that I was doing that. I didn't even think about it, that I was doing it to myself, but definitely didn't realize how it was affecting people around me. And so that's such a big piece about respect yourself. Same thing it doesn't matter where you're at home, at work. If you say things like, I'm so stupid. I can't believe I did that. People are like, oh yeah, this is how she talks to herself. Like, she's okay if we say stuff like that to her, right? No, we have to really take that step back and say, wait, this is what I'm doing to myself. And I would never do that to someone else. You're going to live with
Yeah,
yourself forever, right? Like, you should be your best friend.
right. Yes, that is so, so valuable. Okay. So tell us a little bit about your book, The Extraordinary Unordinary You.
So that's my first book. It came out in 2020. It is all about realizing what you're capable of and recognizing that the little things you do every day matter. So, as I mentioned, I have 6 kids. We actually adopted our youngest 3 from Ethiopia and from South Korea. So it's their adoption stories, climbing Kilimanjaro. There's so much in there that, again, now when I read it, I'm like, wow, I didn't really know how much I was doing, right? I was not giving myself credit for the things that was happening. And that's kind of like the motivation for this book, is for other people to read it and say, oh yeah, I'm doing a lot of cool things in this world. And I need to understand that instead of not giving myself credit for. And so much of it is about the little things we do every day, right? Because a lot of times we'll put, so much pressure on ourselves. Like, you've got to do bigger, you've got to do better. Like, you have to, like, if you're a philanthropist, you've got to be giving $1 million. Well, a dollar makes a difference, right? So it's the little things that really change people's lives. It changes the world around you.
Yes, the 1% rule. I love the little things. And what is your second book?
My second book comes out in February 17th, 2026. It's called Real Confidence, a simple guide to go from unsure to unshakable. So it's all with my real method. It's all about building confidence from the inside out.
So we got the scoop early. I love it.
Yeah.
And we will put these in the show notes. So, Simone, is there anything that we haven't discussed or that I haven't asked you that you would like to share with our listeners?
I would just like to leave them with one last thought, because so often we talk about having to change who we are. And I truly believe that we don't need to change who we are. We need to change the way we see ourselves. And that's how change happens. So, it's really understanding our value, looking in the mirror and appreciating the person looking back at us instead of constantly being critical.
That is such great advice. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you so much. This has been fabulous. I know I've gotten a lot out of it. I'm sure everyone has. And best of luck in 2026 with your new book and continuing to inspire people. And we appreciate you being on Champions Mojo.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you for listening to the Champions Mojo podcast. We'd be seriously grateful if you would leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We'd feel like we were swimming with fins.